I want to welcome you all to the very first broadcast of the Journey to Self. Just to kind of give you an idea of the purpose of this podcast, I'm a firm believer that from the time that we're born until the time that our time is up, that our job is to travel a journey, and the journey is to discover who you are, what you're capable of, to learn what your passion is. Mm-hmm. Socrates, I think, says it's the best, and an unexamined life is not worth living. Every experience that we have is to teach us a lesson so that we can learn more about ourselves. So that's the main purpose of this podcast. And I'm honored because our guest today is Roxanne Edmonds. And I think originally we connected or we were in one of John's groups together. That's originally how I originally came across you. And then I've been following you on Instagram.
That is correct. Yes.
And one of the things that that immediately struck me about you, because it's one of my passions, and I always say that it's my therapy is working out, is that you like working out.
I love working out. I cannot not work out. That's how I get by, is to work out.
How long have you been at it?
So I've been working out for 6 years. I've been lifting weights for 6 years, and it's been an amazing journey. Of course, I didn't start out an expert, but I fell in love with Body Pump. It's a light weight training class that I used to attend, and that now I'm a certified trainer in. So now I teach the class. Something I thought I would never do, because I thought me speaking in front of a crowd, much less, training, I could never do that, but I did. So that's what I do now. I'm a certified body pump trainer.
Okay. And would you agree with me, like that working out is it's therapy. It helps keep your mind together. It's when I go to the gym, that's the one place that I know will balance everything out.
Absolutely. So I was in a really, really, really dark place when I finally decided to get a membership at the gym. And I just knew that that was the answer. After praying and asking Source, God, infinite intelligence, to help me find a way to feel better, that was the answer. And so that is how I have gotten by. And I wish that more people knew that and could experience that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange that you say that, because lately I've been a YouTube addict. I mean, I watch YouTube, and it's only
I think we all are.
It's only been like the last 6 months, but I'm telling you, that's like, I don't watch regular TV. I do a lot of YouTube because, I can control the stimulus that my brain gets, right? I can control my environment. I can control my vibration. But over the past week, I've been going through some bodybuilders channels, and the common thread that I've noticed, and I've always known this, but the common thread that I've noticed is that a lot of people, when they really get into working out, it's because it takes them from a place of depression or from a very low period, and it becomes the medicine.
That's exactly right. In my case, so I'll just share a little bit. I was suffering from panic attacks and severe anxiety. At the point when I started my journey, I had not been diagnosed yet, but I knew there was something wrong. And so it took an event that was very traumatic to me to finally get me in a doctor's office where they diagnosed me with PTSD. And so they gave me a plethora of prescriptions, and I took them. I needed one for the daytime. I needed one Ambien to sleep. and I was just not living. I was just getting by on those prescriptions that they gave me. And they said, take them and you'll likely need them for the rest of your life and you're never going to get better. And how disheartening, you know, to know that you've been diagnosed with this and they're telling you there's nothing else for you. This is what your life is going to look like. So it was very empowering to me to discover weight training was relieving me from all of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't have, any bad days, but they're few and so far in between, and I still manage them with meditation and exercise. And so, I feel for the people who are stuck on that prescription and never getting better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you just made me realize something. Like, a lot of people ask me, they say, how did you get on this road of self-discovery? And I always reflect back to the day when, I was at my lowest point, where, I was at my jumping off point, where it was like,
Right.
I don't necessarily want to die, but I can't live like this anymore, right?
Right.
So that's the point I go back to. But if I really think about it, my journey of self-discovery started the very first time I started working out, because, as a child, I felt like that I had no control of my life. I was in and out of foster homes and just a lot of craziness. But when I went to the gym, it empowered me. It helped me to realize that I'm in control, and I didn't know how to really be in charge of my mind and my thoughts. I didn't understand that yet, but I did know that if I lifted this weight, it made me feel like that I was in control, and everything began for me by first constructing my body, right?
Yes.
So that's actually, where my journey actually began.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and I say it all the time, but sometimes I still forget that we operate on 3 planes: mind, body, and spirit, and they're all connected. But for me, the body came first.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about who Roxanne is today. What does life look like today?
Life is good, Eric. Life is good. Sometimes I see my pictures before and even kind of visit some of my story, and I don't, I know that was me, but it seems like a lifetime away. Like it's just so far removed from who I am today. Today, I'm a business owner. My business is called Evolution by Roxanne, LLC. It's all about empowering people, mind, body, and soul. I love to read, and so I'm applying all of these concepts and helping people apply them to their lives. And today I'm a certified body pump instructor. I teach body pump classes. I'm also a T-Tech agent, so I service business accounts. And I'm a gym girl, a gym woman, muscle mommy, whatever they're calling us today. I am all of those things. And I love my life. I'm also a coach. I just completed, I just received my certificate from Million and You. So I completed that, and it's only empowered me more. And I'm just hungry for more, because I believe we were put on this planet to expand, and there's always more. Um, and so I look forward, this journey for me is still a journey. I keep growing, I keep expanding, and I think that's what it should be for everyone. We should anticipate the next step and the next. And so today I'm a businesswoman. I'm an empowered woman. I overcame my diagnosis. I am here because of who I am and what I went through. And I never thought I'd say it, but I'm grateful for what I went through to get here. So.
And I think that that's something that we grow into, that place of being grateful for everything that we went through. Because
Absolutely.
I have a strange feeling that we're alike in a lot of ways. And if that's the case, you were probably like me, and you went through many years of feeling like you were the victim of all kind of other stuff. And it wasn't that you were grateful for it.
Right. Right.
So this empowered version of you, we know, didn't always exist.
Right.
Your vibration, your frequency has expanded.
Yes.
And we always have to get to a point where, like I talked about, that jumping off point. I think we get to a point where we feel completely, there's an old saying, you can't teach a man who knows. Right.
Right.
So I think we all get to a point where we figure out that we don't know, and our ability to live is solely based on learning what we don't know.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that place for you. Like, we have this version of you. What was the previous version, and what made you? Well, we'll break this down. Just tell us a little bit about who Roxanne used to believe she was. What was your
Okay.
previous story of Roxanne?
My previous story was, a woman who was walking in victimhood. I mean, I just blamed everyone and everything for everything that happened to me. I was constantly, in a vibration of anger, resentment, shame, and I owned it like if it was like if there was nothing else. I remember I used to spend a lot of time on social media, Netflix, you name it. I used to spend so much time there just numbing myself and running away from anything associated with growth or taking responsibility for, any decisions I made. Um, she was really sad, depressed, down, um, just really, really low self-esteem. I mean, it's just, and I think this is true for a lot of women today, and men. Um, we use our addictions to Netflix or social media or alcohol, or even our prescription drugs to run away from our truths. And so that's who I was. I was walking around like a victim, and I never took responsibility for anything. I just always constantly blamed everything around me. And so it was, when you set your reticular activating system to I'm the victim, you'll find all the reasons, they'll show up for you. It'll prove you right every single day in every single way. Um, and of course, I lacked awareness because I didn't have time. I only had time to numb myself with all of these other things. Um, so it was just a vicious cycle, for me, of depression, victimhood, blaming. That's who I was.
Hmm. What what was the, if there was a certain moment, and I know most of the time there is, what was the moment that you had had enough of that, or what was it that made you even hope that there was something else, if that makes sense?
Right. Um, there was many instances that I had, that I was like, I don't think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, I think we all have those moments, just those, little moments where you're like, there's more. Um, but the one that sticks out that really got to me and shook me. Um, so I was angry as as per usual back then. I was angry and I went on an angry run. Um, and I lived in Texas at the moment. This was in 2020. And so we're in the middle of a pandemic. The gyms are closed, and I'm angry. I won't dive too much into why I was angry, but the point is, I had a lot of angry thoughts. I decided I was going to go and run, and time just got away from me. And before you know it, it was dark. It was very dark. You could somewhat see with the street lights. But then, as I was completing my last lap, a car pulled up with two men inside the car. I didn't know it was two at the moment. I only found that out later. But basically, and I apologize if I get a little winded telling the story, but they chased me down. One of them managed to pull me in his direction, and it was only when the other guy got out of the car that I realized it was two. So I managed to get away. I ran as fast as I could. And I remember I said something to them, but to this day, I can't quite remember what I said. But the point is, I filed a police report, and it turns out they had had several kidnappings in that area. And so I just happened to be, you know, in that area running, and that happened. And so I reflected on that, and I was like, it's enough. Like, this is a wake up call for me.
Hmm. And that was enough to spark this new journey. All right, and actually, it's not even really a new journey. It was enough for you to realize that you wanted to change direction a little bit.
Oh, I wanted to change direction a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, I was angry still, but so I realized that that relationship that I was in, that marriage, had to end. I had to let go. Um, and then I had to let God in. I had to let God in. And so I gave up and I gave in to him. I literally remember myself coming out of my house and just saying, I give up and I give in to you. Just take over. I've tried it my way. It doesn't work. You know better. Just take over. And it was from that point on that I was on the journey. And it's like I just took off, and what's next? And I was so hungry for truth, for him, um, just anything, that wasn't what I was doing, because what I was doing was not working. So, but
It's my last moments of my addiction, because I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic. My last moments of my addiction, I think I had been like on a 3-day binge or something like that. I didn't sleep at all. And I remember sitting there, and like I said before, I knew I didn't want to live this way, and I didn't want to die. But I remember I said, God, I can't go on like this. I give up.
right. Right.
And I think that, unfortunately, we get caught in these belief systems, right? Because that's really what it is. It's our
Mhm.
limited beliefs,
Right.
right? And our empowering beliefs. And we usually have to get to a point of surrender. But then it's amazing, because once we surrender, it's like everything begins to change.
Yes, it's funny how that works. It makes me laugh with joy, really, because that's really all you have to do is just let go. Um, let go of your control of, people, places, and things that are not serving you. And the hardest part is really letting go, because you're so attached to, you know, that person or that environment, because, or that job, you know, or that, you say things like, oh, but I've always done it this way, even though it's not working for you. And so you let go and let God. It's literally that simple. And I'm not saying that life is perfect, that, you're not going to feel pain. But pain with God, you can handle it. I mean, you can just get by so well. Um, Pain without him, which he's always there, even when I was not aware, of when he was there for me. When I look back, he was there. He was always there for me. Um, but now that I am aware of him, and I, you know, acknowledge him and speak to him and really feel him in all my moments, in my joyous moments, in my down moments. I mean, life is great. And I understand now more than ever that we're here, we're all of us are here with a purpose. Um, and it's expansion. We're supposed to expand. Some of us, have these gifts, and some of us have different gifts, and just whatever direction you're pulled, we're here to expand. And so,
Yeah, it's you mentioned giving up control, and it's really the simplest thing to do, but I think that it's the hardest thing to do
mhm,
because our ego
right.
just takes
There you go.
control, and we stay in we stay in this place of bondage.
Mhm.
And it's almost like sometimes most of the time, we know it's not working. We don't like it, but we'll defend it over and over and
Yes.
over. It's like, I want to
We
get out of this, but this is why I got to stay here.
right, right. Exactly. I remember, myself, when I was living in Texas, that's exactly what I would do. I'd be like, this is terrible. However, and then, insert excuse here. Um, and so you have to, it's incredibly liberating, first of all, to acknowledge that you can, respond to what's happening around you, and that you can live from the inside out and really know that there's a higher intelligence who's figured it out. Um, and so letting go really is the solution to everything, including your health problems, because, every time that you stress out or you have anger, resentment, there's a lot of chemical reactions inside your body that are making you sick. They're literally making you sick and setting up the environment for so many diseases. So, um, letting go and letting God is the solution to everything.
It's you mentioned living from the inside out. What do you mean
Mhm.
by
So one of the things that it sometimes it kind of wants to sneak up on me, and I have to catch myself, is letting all of the environment control me, letting what's happening around me control me, rather than tapping into self and then coming out into the world. And so, it's all of that information that constantly comes into our subconscious mind, what we feel, what we see, what we touch, what we hear. Um, oh, I'm having a bad day because I heard, this being said about me. Oh, I'm having a bad day because I see, rather than, choosing to live from the inside, where, you are the source of love and light, and then stepping out and living from there, living from the inside out. This is also so huge to manifesting your goals, that you're coming out with that inside of you and then just projecting that out, rather than taking in your environment and then saying, you know, I'm the victim because of the environment, because of this, because of that, you know. So that's what I mean by living from the inside out, um, living from that place of love and light, and then stepping out into the world and projecting that out.
And if I think back to when I was in victim mode, when everything, my life was in my mind created by everything that was going on outside of myself. One
Right.
of the reasons that happened was because I was so afraid to look inside and take ownership, or to pay attention to my thoughts.
Right.
I
Right.
remember a side story. I remember one of the, and this will be my next thing, is that I think that we always, when there's an old saying, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I always believe when we're ready, the universe, God places people at every stage to help us maneuver through.
Right.
And when I first got sober, I connected with this Buddhist sensei. God sent me this Buddhist sensei,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that he was real big on was meditating. And meditating to me was a weird concept, but the scariest part of it was that I had to sit quietly,
Yes.
right? And when you're in full flight from yourself, which I think is one of the things that most people deal with, they're always running from themselves, right? So I tried this meditation thing, and it was like I had to pay attention to these thoughts that I had never paid attention to before. It was the scariest thing in the world. Scariest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time to get comfortable with being quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And it even took me longer to realize that unless I paid attention to my thoughts and the feelings connected with them, I never had a chance of changing them,
Right.
or substituting them for more empowering thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that that's something that a lot of people run into. They're afraid to face themselves. And so
That's true.
when you talk about living from the inside out, it's a scary concept because you have to recognize and discover who you are and take ownership, because
Mm-hmm.
we both know that outside circumstances, we create them,
Mm-hmm.
right? We create we
Right.
create our environment. So, if
Right.
I'm having a day where my thoughts and are very low vibrational, there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of lower vibrational things that I'm going to pay attention to, and they're going to become a part of my reality set that I normally wouldn't pay attention to when my
Right.
vibration is higher.
Absolutely. So that's when it's your responsibility to set your reticular activating system to the frequency that you want to tap into. So if I come out of the house and and I'm angry and I'm judgmental, even towards myself while I'm getting dressed, well, guess what? I'm going to come out into the world and I'm going to find people projecting that right back to me. I'm going to be in that low, vibe, and I'm going to find them. I'm going to find them. But if I choose to sit down and quiet my mind for 30 minutes and really, with intention of how I'm going to be happy and grateful for my day, then I've set my reticular activating system to happy gratitude, you know, high frequency. Um, that's when you'll start to see all of the synchronicities and all of the things happen for you because you're in that high vibe and you tap into that frequency of success. So, if I'm thinking of how can I make my business better, and I'm thinking of that thought with love, I'm going to come step out into that environment. And sure, maybe, bodybuilder Joe is having a bad day and maybe saying some things that I don't like, but I'm not, it's not going to bother me because I chose what type of day I was going to have before I walked out. I spent some time with myself. I set the intention. The reticular activating system is set to success, happiness, and love. And so that's what I will find. Um, and so before I would just go out there and, just be, kind of everywhere and chaotic. And so and that can still happen, because we all have our bad days. But when you set your intention for the day that you're going to have, you're setting that reticular activating system to what you want. And that's incredibly empowering to tell people, hey, if you do the work, if you really sit down with your thoughts and you heal that trauma and you really try to figure yourself out, you can set your thermostat, you can set your reticular activating system to what you want. And you'll stop reacting. You'll stop reacting. A lot of things that have happened, the old version of me would have had a complete meltdown. Um, but this new version of me just doesn't really care that much. I was like, that's when that's when the change has happened, when things that used to really bother you just don't bother you, and you almost feel com like empathy for the people. that are doing those things. You're like, I feel bad. That person is, running on a paradigm of lack or running on a paradigm of insecurity. And so I don't have to, react. I can choose to respond.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between responding and reacting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, there's responding, you quietly walk away, and then there's reacting. You could possibly be arrested before 3 p.m. It's it's that much of a difference. So 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 yes, huge difference.
How do you, because we talked a little bit about energy and vibration and frequency.
Yeah,
And everything, if my frequency is here, the only thing that I can attract is stuff on that same frequency, right?
right,
Energy
right.
attracts like energy.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you stay connected enough to yourself that you're in control of the frequency that you operate on?
You got to get out ahead of it. It starts in the morning. As soon as you wake up, in the beginning when I started my work, I had negative thoughts the moment I got out of bed. It was like, it's another day. This, I had a list of things I needed to do. And so you get out ahead of it. You sit down, you quiet your mind, you do your meditation. The studies show that 27 minutes is like the magic number. That's when they saw that new neural pathways were connected, whenever they spent 27 minutes. So I aim for 30. And it took me a long time to get there because, like you, Eric, in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be with myself inside my head. I mean, I avoided lash appointments. Someone was like, go get your lashes done. It'll take 2 hours. I was like, 2 hours with me and my thoughts? No, thank you. I don't want to do that. And so, it took me some time to get there. It was quiet my mind for 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. And, I worked my way up. But you get out ahead of it. As soon as you get up out of bed, sit down, quiet your mind. There's so many guided meditations available to us on YouTube for free. I specifically recommend Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. I've read all of his books twice because I'm that nerd, but his meditations are so powerful. Even if you just do a 10-minute meditation from Dr. Joe Dispenza's YouTube channel, they're the best. So the answer to your question, Eric, is get out ahead of it. Don't go out don't go out until you sit down and then come out as the version that you want to be, and act as if. And sure, there are going to be, things that happen throughout your day that might knock you off, but bring yourself back. And what you're doing is you're training your mind every time. So, if, something happens and you're starting to react, you become aware of it. You step back and become aware of it, and then bring yourself back. And you keep doing that. Eventually, you'll go through your day where you'll find yourself doing less of that and more living and more being present, which is where you want to be if you want to manifest, because the opportunities that always appear are in the now. They're not in the past, and they're not in the future. They're not with you concerned about the future, but they're in the present moment. So that's my answer. You just get out ahead of it. You do the work. And I know it's scary, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah, one of the first times that I ever listened to Dr. Joe was he talked about the fact that most people, and this was some days I can still get into this rut unless I get ahead of it in the morning.
Right.
Sometimes we wake up on the same side of the bed. We go to
Yes.
the bathroom the same way that we do every single morning. We drive to work on autopilot, basically, because we've driven so many times, and
Right.
that's how we go through our life,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And so what we're talking about is taking responsibility. And so my question to you is that there had to be a moment in time where you talked about leaving the marriage, and I'm sure that that it's something that happens on a regular basis. But how do you get past the whole fear of doing that?
Um, so for me, I had a hard time letting go because I had this fear of judgment from other people, and I had this fear that I would be lost, without the marriage, that I pretty much lost all sense of identity, really. Um, so I had to figure out what I was going to do. I started out with no, I had dropped my career to support his. So at this point, I don't have a career. I'm starting from nothing. I don't even have my own vehicle, and I'm depressed. I've just been diagnosed with PTSD. And so, how do you get the courage to change your circumstances? The truth is, I prayed every day, Eric, for courage. I prayed for the strength. And then I would just get up and do it. It was very clear to me with every situation that happened, but especially that last one, that it wasn't going to work. And so I made peace with that. The moment that you accept and make peace with that, you can start to move forward. I think the reason a lot of people feel stuck in marriages is because um, they are attached to the idea of what that marriage could have been rather than the reality of what that is. And so how do you get the courage? You pray. You pray and you go for it. You just pray and you keep going. And you take baby steps. And those days that you're feeling really motivated and have a lot of energy, you take huge leaps until you get out. Whether it be a toxic marriage or friendship, or that's how you do it. You just literally take baby steps, you pray hard, you meditate, and then you keep going until you're out.
Do you often find that it's helpful to be aware of your self-talk, or to purposely control your self-talk?
Yes. Yes. So anything, filtering your thoughts is really important, but also trying to figure out where those thoughts came from, because those disempowering thoughts, as you well know, Eric, are a paradigm. It's a program that's running inside your head, and you have to recognize that that's what that is, um, so that you can take power away from those thoughts. Because once you're internalizing what you're thinking every day, um, that's when it really impacts and affects you. So, yes, it is really important to monitor your thoughts, but equally as important is what you're consuming, because some of those thoughts are coming from the music that you're consuming, from the television you're consuming, from the people that, you're constantly hearing. I mean, that seeps into the subconscious, and you internalize that, and you'll keep running, on that loop. So you have to filter your monitor your thoughts, and then you have to monitor what you allow in. This is why you, Eric, probably prefer, like me, prefer to get on YouTube and have control of what comes in, right? So you have to set an intention when you are going to read a book, or, watch social media. Like, if it's not serving you, and when it's not serving you, then you really need to understand that it's seeping in. Just like we nourish our bodies to build our muscle, we have to nourish our minds and our spirits. And we can't do that consuming, trash.
So you're saying that it would be hard for me to watch murder shows all day long and go out and be a loving person.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard for you to go not then go out and so yes, I mean, and it's funny that you mentioned that because that's actually what I used to watch. I used to fall asleep to that. Imagine how terrible that is. Like I used to just fall asleep to murder shows and just let it seep into my subconscious. I'm in theta wave and just sleeping. So, I mean, yes, you want to consume stuff that's going to help you. I mean, obviously people don't, want to give up a lot of their favorite TV shows, but if you really look at some of that material, it's not serving you. Um, I don't watch TV. I'm so behind on everything, but I read a lot. I read every day. And I forgot who said it best. If you want to lock up secrets, you can do so in books. And so, that's where I found all the secrets. And I found that not everybody not everybody likes to read. So whenever someone would ask me a question, I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can find it in this book. And here, go ahead and read it." And they're like, "Oh, I can't find the time." Um, so I think that's where my purpose comes in. I have to figure out a way to make people aware of all of the things that I've read and discovered so that they can apply them to their lives. Maybe that could look like content creation. Maybe that could look like my own book, which I'm currently working on.
Right?
So, it's really, it could be anything. It could be anything, but that's really what I think my purpose is to communicate this information to people because I truly want them to experience, the joy and the love and just the liberating feeling of living, of just living, truly living and not just surviving.
Yeah, one of the things, and I know that you know this, is that when you think in a certain from a certain standpoint or a certain belief, and we talked about paradigms, it's because that thought has been nurtured and repeated and over and over and over again, that it grows roots so strong that even
Right.
without you thinking about it from your
Hmm.
subconscious, that becomes your operating system.
Right.
So, when you talk about, or when we talk about being able to control the information that comes in, so in order to move away from that paradigm, or in order to stop to continually do the same things, because it's, the phrase that I use all the time, and I absolutely love it, is thoughts create feelings, create actions, create results, right?
Right.
It all starts with the thought
This is
and then
true.
the feeling connected with it. And I think sometimes we get more addicted to the feeling than anything else. Like when I was a victim,
Hmm.
I became addicted to that feeling, and that's the only place I knew how to operate, right?
Right.
So yeah, I also find it very important to stay in control of the information that I put into my brain. The stimuli that I allow to come into my space,
Mhm.
and it has to be the exact opposite in order for me to become something different, in order for you to be able to grow into this version of yourself. In
Right.
the same process of me, we had to get to a point where we thought exactly the opposite of what we thought before.
Hmm.
So the stimuli is very important because it reinforces that. So, if my thought is that I want to become this empowered person, I can't watch murder shows. I have to listen to information about becoming
Yeah.
empowered. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to consume, information. I say this because I think everybody can agree that we are perpetual students. We are perpetual students of life. We don't have it all figured out. Even people who you could see and say, oh, that person, we don't have it all figured out. We are here as perpetual students. That's why we want to learn. And so it is really, I cannot stress it enough how much it affects you to even when I'm driving and I'm even listening to some of the music, and the messaging, I'm just like, I can't believe I used to dance to that. Like, that's incredibly, that's incredibly, horrible. Like, so when you really start to become aware and you're coming into this awakening, you really start to view things for what they are, um, and you start to really, that's where I was talking about taking responsibility. You take responsibility because you made that choice, you make those choices daily. You can choose the sparkling water, you can choose the diet, the soda, sugary soda, just choices. It's all about little choices every day. Um, and it's either good or it's not serving you. Um, and so that's where the taking the responsibility comes in, is that you ultimately you have to try to figure out why you're making that choice. Likely it's your paradigm, and then you have to, you know, reprogram yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's next? The book? What else?
I'm working on the book. I'm still working on my business. It's new, it's so there's a lot of things that I'm figuring out. Um, so there's my course, there's my book, and my website is under construction. But yeah, that's what's in the works right now. Um, and it's just all coming together. I'm just letting go and having fun and letting God, because I know it's gonna be amazing. So,
Did if we go back 5 years, 10 years ago,
right.
could you imagine this version of you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think when I first walked into my first class of body pump, which is weight training, I remember one of my friends saying, um, this is a really hard class. And I agreed. I was like, we should do, cardio or something different. And so, 6 months in, and I'm, just doing the class, and she's like, can you imagine ever being an instructor, a body pump instructor? And I was like, no, no, absolutely not. I have this, fear of getting up on a stage and speaking to people. I can't imagine working out in front of them and giving them cues as I'm working out to choreography. I can't imagine. And then I found myself, fast forward, and I found myself receiving my body pump certificate and teaching a class of 30 people. And I'm just like, who is she? Who is she right now? Like, she showed up. And so, like, no, I couldn't imagine that, you would have told me that I was going to have a business named Evolution by Roxanne, and that I was going to pursue this passion and teach body pump classes, and just have a completely different mindset. I couldn't imagine, but it's been amazing, and I want that for everyone, Eric. I really genuinely want that for everyone, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are lost and they are in pain. They're in pain, and I just, I think it's up to us, Eric, up to you and me, and all of us who have made it this far to kind of be the light, to guide them in alignment, to source, to help them find their path.
I absolutely agree, and that's why I tell people all the time, never dim your light. Shine as bright as you can shine, because there's always somebody watching you. And
Right.
there's always people that are relying on your light to
Yeah,
be able to see the way.
absolutely. Yeah,
So I completely agree with you that we have a responsibility to be the highest versions of ourselves, because there's always somebody that are looking at us, and they'll follow.
they will.
Um, I've done podcasts before, but I'm so excited about this podcast and the title of it, because I think that that's really what it's all about. I mean, that's really what life is all about: taking responsibility and learning and discovering who you are and how powerful you are. That
Right.
that certificate paints a perfect picture. It was like, who would have thought?
Yes.
And every time that we overcome that fear, every time that we allow ourselves to step out of bondage, every time that we're blessed enough to step a little bit further out of bondage,
Hmm.
we discover how powerful we are and how resilient we are and how amazing we are. And then we get to the point where we realize that it was ultimately us that kept us in that place.
That.
It's the most empowering thing in the world, but it's the scariest thing for most people because
Right.
we're not taught to take responsibility. We don't realize that there's this rich spirit and so much knowledge within us of who we are. We get so distracted by what all of this is,
Hmm.
we never are
Yeah.
able or taught to dial into who I am and what my lane looks like.
Right.
I mean, when I got
Yeah.
to the point where I figured out that I didn't have to be anybody else, like my lane was paved perfect.
Right.
I mean, it was set up perfect, and all I had to do was realize and understand the vehicle that was traveling this journey.
Right. Oh yeah, I was up on everybody's lane. I was like, I gotta be all of this, and I gotta be, and even as a fitness instructor, you get caught up because there's a lot of ego in there, right? There's a lot of people, with their bodybuilding shows, and people have approached me and said, "Hey, when are you going to be in a bodybuilding show?" And there was, that part of me that thought, maybe I should be, but then I was like, no, that's not who I am. So I had to really show up in my lane, like you say. And my lane is I'm a nerd. I love reading books. I love creating courses. I love helping people, in this way. I love, love, love this stuff. And so I love communicating it to people. And although that is a sport in itself and it has its beautiful, moments, it's not who I am. And so I had to really understand to step into my own power. And this is it. This is who I am. And so um, showing up unapologetically took work for me because I was always, there was always that paradigm of people won't accept you. People, will judge you. People will think you're a nerd. People don't want to hear your boring information, all of those negative thoughts. But then I had to overcome that and I had to understand that people are searching for me, Eric. People are searching for you, Eric. And so once you understand that there's people out there who are hungry for this information, who are in pain, in their own internal pain, you start to put your stuff out there knowing that if that the universe, God will bring those people who need it. um, so that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me that in my pre-workout. My pre-workout helps, but it helps me to know that when I am out there, waking up and taking my picture of, oh, I worked out. I get messages from people and they say, I didn't want to work out today, but I saw your story and I saw you post and it made me get up, and I got up and I feel so good. And what was that book you were reading? And I was like, look, this is amazing. Like, it just fills my heart that that person is excited to work on themselves physically and mentally and then spiritually. It's just icing. I'm just like, this is amazing. It's beautiful. Like, how can I reach more people? How can I reach more people? So,
And you said something that uh, I think is very important. Where we pay so much attention to, especially when we're younger. When we're younger, we're taught how we should be, who we should be, how we should act.
right.
We nowadays, excuse me, people are growing up with social media. So they get all these images of what they should look like and what they should be doing and
Mhm.
who they're supposed to be, that it becomes very hard to realize your uniqueness and the blessing of being so unique.
Mhm.
You talked about that. You said that there's people out there waiting for you. And I feel the same way. And I feel like I'm doing the world because I believe that we're all here for a reason. We all have a purpose. It's not like we're just here to take up space and breathe air, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
we all have a purpose here. There's something that we came here to do. And if I'm not living within my authenticity, if I'm not being my most authentic, I am doing the world a terrible disjustice,
Right.
because there's something that I need to do. There's people that need to know what I know. And there's a saying, it's like if you're in a place and people don't recognize your value, you don't feel valuable, move somewhere where you feel it.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Because
Exactly.
there are people, like they talk about tribes. Be you when your tribe will appear. Right?
That's exactly right. So, I was going through that as well, so I searched Les Brown. I'm a huge fan of Les Brown. And so whenever I heard he was coming to Atlanta, it was a no-brainer. I was like, I'm buying the ticket. Like I'm gonna go see Les Brown. And then that's where I met John. And so, I met those people and it was so refreshing to find people who were just as passionate and just find all types of people from around the world who were just as passionate about their self-development and other people's development, in all areas. Um, and so yes, if I didn't become the higher version of myself, I would not have attended that event. I would not have been able to step up and be able to, if I had not read all the books and done all the work, I wouldn't know what types of conversations to have with these people. I would have nothing in common, um, because I was still living in the, old paradigm. So there was already a lot of work. And then just completing the program in Million and You was just like putting all of it into perspective and packaging it up real nice and, you know, making it available for me to, be able to dive into every day. Um, but yeah, so yes, that your tribe is your vibe and your vibe attracts your tribe. So
Yeah.
so change your vibe. Be careful with that.
And you just, and this, we'll kind of wrap it up on this, because I also think that this is very important. And I think it's something that a
Mhm,
lot of times we fail to realize. You talked about earlier about giving up control.
mhm.
And, one of the things that we try to control is we try to control what's going to happen in the future. But we spend way too much time basing the future on what happened in the past.
Right.
And we never really understand the power of now. And if I just understood you correctly, uh, when you got certified to teach this class, it started with you taking a class and you were present during that class, and you took another class and you were present during that class. And because you were present, you were being prepared for the next moment and to the next moment and to the next moment. It wasn't like you decided that I'm going to get certified and then take the classes to get certified. It happened because you were living in the moment. You always liked Les Brown, but you had lived in the moment and let life progress naturally. And then, like you said, when he showed up, it was a no-brainer because you had been living in the moment,
Right.
and the moment carried you to the next moment. And I think
Right.
sometimes we forget that it's not important what's going to happen in the future. If we live in this moment, because this moment and this breath, back to meditating, this moment and this breath is the only time that life is happening. And if we
Right.
focus and we take responsibility and we control our thoughts and we control the information that we take in, and we can control our frequency, this moment, it'll set us up for the next moment. And before we know, we'll have this version of Roxanne that we never knew existed before.
Right.
This
Right.
amazingly powerful creature who recognizes that
Thank
she's
you.
instilled with amazing gifts, and she's here to alter and empower the lives of other people. All happened by staying in the moment, because we can't rush it. And we don't even know what we're supposed to be rushing.
No, we really don't. we we rush to the airport so we can wait. You know, it's
Right.
just it's insane how much we rush. But you're absolutely right. I agree. So they say prayer is us talking to God, and intuition. Those ideas that you get, like I had that idea, maybe I'll take a body pump class. I had no idea where that came from. You know, I must have tapped into something that day. Um, but you follow it. That's how you get there. You live in the now and you follow that idea. If you have this idea of going somewhere, just go. Just go because it's your higher self. It's God calling you to your purpose. You can't see the full picture. You know, it's like there's a saying like you're not going to get step by, you know, like when you look at the GPS, it just kind of tells you what your next turn is and then what your next turn is, and then you just take the turns, right? But a lot of people want the full picture. They want the full picture. They're like, no, I have to know what, you know. But if you really, like you said, just live in the now and just follow the turns and those that intuition, um, you'll find yourself in places that you never imagined, in rooms that you never thought you'd be in, you know, mingling with people that you never thought you would. So listen, so exactly what you said, live in the now and then have fun. Have fun. Oh my goodness. That was a huge one for me because I thought, oh, I have to, you know, there's got to be pain involved with all this hard work that I'm doing because I won't be successful. But no, it was quite the opposite. Like as soon as I started having fun, as soon as I started to just, you know, live in the moment and be present and enjoy and linger in gratitude, that's when the opportunities were like coming at me. I was like, oh wow, this is easy. I think this is what it was supposed to feel like. And yes, it was. You know, just even weight training, I started to see results when I started having fun. When I stopped thinking about the end result, oh, I have to look like this, or I have to, no, my goal is to have fun. And and then the results, of course, followed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it all goes back to that whole control thing because when we're in control and we feel like we want to know everything so that we can be in control,
yeah,
you know, we're
yeah,
we're operating from a very low vibrational state of fear,
exactly.
you know? But to be able to just let go and let life happen and know that there's going to be amazing things that you never expected.
Mhm.
That's living. That's what we're here to do, the expansion,
Live.
right?
Yes.
You know, I always say that in I'm sure somebody said it before, but you know, most people are afraid of dying, but really they should be afraid of not living because there's a lot of people that are just existing, um,
Right.
and they don't know what living is. They're like the Walking Dead,
Right.
and it's very sad.
Hmm.
Listen, I am so glad that I
Yeah.
am so glad that that moment happened for you, where you surrendered and you started showing up for yourself and you became willing to discover who you are because you'll touch a lot of people. There's people watching you. There's people
Mhm.
watching you because you're worth watching and you have something to say and you have a lot to give. And
Thank you.
I I'm amazed. I mean, I feel honored, number one, to have you be the first guest on the podcast, but also just to watch you, you know, just to watch you and your stories and know that you're recognizing and you're learning more and you're growing more into yourself every single day. And
Mhm.
it's an honor to watch.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. And it's an honor to be here. This it is out of, you know, was out of my comfort zone because obviously I got comfortable at some point. But, you know, I mean, I could have never imagined being here and telling my story the way that I, you know, just told you and anyone who will, you know, listen. Um, and here I am sharing that story. And I think, and I'm also glad that I had that moment so that I can now share and pour into other people who need to hear it.
Yeah.
So
How can people connect with you on social media?
they can find me at Roxanne_Edmonds. That's my handle. Like I said, my website is still under construction, so I'm working on that next, but they can find me there. They can follow me there. And then I'm currently working on my book. And so that'll be something that I will put out there also on that platform.
Do you have a title yet?
I don't. I don't have a title.
It'll come.
It'll come. I'm sure it will. Mhm. I have a picture of what in my mind of what, the title or what the cover will look like, but
It'll come.
mhm.
It'll come. Again, thank you. Thank you for showing up and doing all the work moment by moment to be my first guest.
You're so welcome. It's a true pleasure, and I'm so glad that you chose me. I really am.
I am too. I am too. All right, Miss Roxanne Edmonds. Again,
Right.
it was a pleasure. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And yeah, it's been a great day. Ended great. I hope the rest of your evening is amazing.
It will be, and thank you so much again, Eric, and I hope likewise that you have a blessed day.
All right, until next time.
Okay, till
Journey.
next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.